Hello, my name is Sean, and today I'll be presenting you with a new Alone Editions card game, Way of the Samurai. For the moment, this is a one-player card game. It is possible that at the end of the crowdfunding, a two-player version will be developed. The theme of the game is simple. It is a fight between two samurai. We play a samurai, and we have to fight a second samurai. Before starting a game, we have the opportunity to choose an opponent from several different options. We will start with the basic opponent. We will be fighting Ishida, who has 8 health points and 5 key points, which are represented by tokens, red for health and blue for key. We will also start with 8 health points and 5 key points. Let's talk about setting up. We have a wound card deck that we have to shuffle. There are level 1 and level 2 wounds, which we'll learn more about later. We have the opponent's deck of cards, which will be the opponent's reactions during his attacks and his defense. We have the action card deck, which is ours to play. These cards will give us skills. We also have the special action card deck, which are cards that can be unlocked during the game and gradually integrated into the main action card deck. At the beginning, the gameplay will be about progressive deck building. We also have a set of gauges with 3 characteristics, the line of strength, line of technique, and the line of defense. We can never be below -2 and never above 4. We start the game by placing the gauge markers at 0. That's all for the presentation of the components and the setup, so let's get into the game. The game takes place in several rounds. Each round consists of 2 attacks by the player and 2 attacks by the opponent. Once the round is over, we replace the gauge sliders to 0 and we start a new round. The goal of the game is to get the opponent's health points to 0, and here's how it's done. At the beginning of each round, we will double check that our gauge markers are at 0. Then we draw 6 cards. I will play with the cards spread on the table so that we can see them. These cards will allow us to increase our gauges, either strength, technique, or defense. We will start by launching our first attack on the opponent. This will be done in 2 stages. First, we play 2 action cards. I'll play the one that gives me +1 in strength, and a second card that gives me +1 in technique, so we increase our gauges accordingly. An attack is always composed of 3 action cards, never more, never less. But before choosing this third card to finalize our attack, we will discover our opponent's defense. It's as if we start moving toward our opponent to attack, and we will read his reaction to understand his defense strategy. When we discover his defense, we have a small period of time to adapt our attack before it is finalized. To discover the opponent's defense, we turn over the opponent's card, and we'll take a look at the top of the card. The upper part of the card represents our opponent's defense. Here's the defense of the opponent. If our level of technique is 3 or more, we will make him lose a point of key. The key points, as we said earlier, are the little blue tokens. Later on, we'll see what they do. To remove a point of key, we must be 3 or more in technique. Currently, our technique is at level 1, but we still have a card to use to finalize this attack. Let's see in our hand what we have to give us more technique. We have this card, which gives +2 in technique, but reduces our strength by 1. This time, losing a little strength is not a big deal, so my attack is successful, and I remove a point of key from our opponent. Once the attack is over, we will see the counter-attack of the opponent. First, we will turn a second opponent card, which we won't turn in this direction, but in this direction. We will place it on the right side of the opponent. And here, the upper part of the card represents the counterattack of the opponent. This counterattack tells us if our defense, which is here, is less than 3, we lose 1 health point. I didn't concentrate on my defense during our attack, but there are cards that can increase our defense. I am at 0 in defense, so I lose 1 health point. The first attack is over. I discard the 3 cards, but we are still in the first round. We still have 3 cards to play to form a second attack. It's the same round, so I won't reset my gauges yet. Let's start this second attack. I will take this opportunity to talk about the key points. What are they for? There are 3 uses of key points for the player. Let's look at the first use of key points. If my cards in my hand do not allow me to make an interesting attack according to my strategy, I can spend a key point to draw an extra card and add it to my hand. But my attack is still limited to 3 cards. So at the end of the round, I will discard a card that hasn't been used. This time we'll try to protect ourselves. We will give ourselves 1 defense point, plus 3 points, minus 2 technique. Once these 2 cards are played, we will discover our opponent's defense by turning over his card. His defense tells me, if my strength is at 4, I take away 2 health points. My current strength is 0, and with the cards I have left in my hand, I cannot make him lose health points. With this card, I could have gained 3 points of strength, but it won't be enough. So I'm going to use this card, which gives me a point in technique, even if it will not change the situation during this attack. Once the 3 cards are played, we will finish our attack. My strength is not 4, so I do not take away any health points. Now, let's see the counterattack of the opponent. If my defense is less than 1, I get a level 2 wound. That's not the case, but let's look at the wound card deck. How does it work? Wound cards come in 2 levels, level 1 and level 2. Here it happens to be a level 2 wound card, so we will have to resolve the lower part of the card. When we turn it around, we see that we would have lost 5 health points. Level 2 wound cards are the strongest in the game. If it were a level 1 wound, we would have lost 3 key points. Each card represents a different wound. This card is particularly special. If we turn it over during a level 1 wound, nothing happens. We dodge the shot. If it's turned over for a level 2 wound, it is immediate death. The head of the character is sliced off. We lose the game if we get this card. We win if it is given to our opponent. It's always a risk to take a wound, even if it's part of a strategy, because the game can end very quickly. The round is over. I discard the extra card and the other 3 cards. We will start a new round. At the beginning of a round, we replace the gauge sliders to 0, and we draw 6 new cards. In this round, we will see the second use of our key points. If we use a key point before placing our first action card, we can see our opponent's defense in advance. Our character focuses and anticipates the opponent's defense. By knowing his defense in advance, we can better prepare our attack to do the most damage. This card says, if strength and technique are at 3 or more, I will either take away 2 health points or 2 key points. Let's see if I have anything in my hand to do this. With this hand, I can get my technique to 3, but I do not have enough cards to increase my strength to 3. So what we can try is to use a key point and draw a card. But I will only have a few key points left if I do that. What happens if we are out of key? When you run out of health points, the game is over immediately. But if the key is empty, either for the opponent or for the player, at the end of each round, whoever no longer has key loses 2 health points. So emptying the opponent's key may be an interesting strategy to win the game. There is a way for you to recover key, but we'll take a look at that in a moment. Let's try to respond to the opponent's defense. Introducing another point of the mechanics of the game, there is a small pictogram at the top left of each attack card. There are 3 types of pictograms and a 4th, which is a bit special, which represents a bloodstain. Let's look at this black pictogram. Let's say I had these 3 cards in hand. Here I do not have 3 identical in hand, so I'm going to look for a 3rd in the deck to give you an example. I have a first card in technique, a card in defense, and a last card that gives me 2 points of strength, and that takes away 1 point in technique. With these cards, I do not get through his defense for this round, and I can't take away any health points or key points. But when finishing my attack, I notice I have 3 identical pictograms. My attack created a combo. And when we create a combo, we have 2 options. Either we win a special attack card, which we place here on the table, not in our hand, or we can recover a key point. This time we won't recover any key, but we will take a special attack card, and I will show you how to use it in a moment. Now let's finish my opponent's attack. If my defense is less than 3, I lose 2 health points. My defense is less than 3, so I'm going to lose 2 health points. But let's discover the last possible use of Ki before discovering the counterattack of the opponent. I can, if I wish, use a point of Ki in order to up my defense one level. Let's say that the next counterattack card told us that if my defense is less than 2, I will get a level 1 wound. In this case, it would be a good idea to raise my defense to avoid the wound. This use of Ki is not the simplest to use because you have to have a feel of the flow of the game and what possible attacks are left in the opponent's deck. It's a strategy often used at the end of the game when there are not many cards left and we have to defend ourselves with everything we've got. Let's continue the game where we left off. I discard these 3 cards. I have 3 left, plus a special action card that I unlocked earlier. I can use the special action card at any time in the game. When I decide to play it, I will put it in my hand. We'll play it during the next attack. A first card, which increases my technique by 3 and drops my strength by 2. A second one that adds 1 technique. Then I check the opponent's defense. If my strength is 3 or more, I take away 1 health point. I am far away and I have no cards to raise my strength that high. I'm going to use this special card, which gives me +2 in technique. But since I am at the maximum of my technique, it doesn't do anything. With this card combination, I do not get to take away his health points. But I just made a combo with a pictogram of the Bloodstain. This pictogram refers to the deck of wound cards. The wound deck is shared by both samurai. When you have a wound card, you do not apply a wound right away. We have here a small die, which at the beginning of the game is at level 1. Following the wound combo, it goes up to level 2. If later in the game I make other wound combos, we will increase the level to 3, 4, etc. For the moment, the die doesn't do anything. If we take a look, we'll see that all of the special action cards have this famous wound pictogram. During the game, we will unlock special action cards which can raise the level of the damage die. And when a special action card is used, we discard it into the discard pile with our main deck. So when we reshuffle our main deck, they will already be integrated inside. The more special action cards we unlock, the higher chance we have to make wound combos and wound our opponent. Let's see what the different dice levels do. When the die is at level 1, 2, or 3, nothing happens. Things get interesting at level 4. At level 4, we have the ability to remove a health point from the opponent at any time during the fight. Then we reset the die back to level 1. We could also try to increase it a bit more and get to level 5. When we're at level 5, we have the possibility of using a level 1 wound card against our opponent. And if we persevere and get all the way to level 6, at the end of an attack, a level 2 wound can be used against the opponent, wounds that are quite violent. And remember, one of the level 2 wound cards, which is here, is a direct kill. The game ends immediately, regardless of our opponent's health points or key points. We just did a quick overview of the mechanics. There's no turn limit, so depending on your luck and your skill, the game could be very brief or long and full of careful strategy like a real samurai combat. In the base box, there will be several opponents with different characteristics and various levels of difficulty. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let us know and we'll gladly answer. Thank you for listening and see you next time for Alone Editions.